Morning all. I thought I'd just give you a quick first impressions of this Aston Martin DB9, which I bought from Manor Park Classics. Bit of a story. I was the underbidder. They rang me to say after a few weeks they couldn't get hold of the winning bidder. Gone to ground. And so I got offered the car as underbidder, and I bought it. To cut a long story short, it was low mileage but no service history, one set of keys, and it transpires. I found out when I picked it up that basically the company that was selling it was a finance company, so the guessing was it was a repossession. It had £4,000 to put it back on the road. I think it had been off the road a little while, but the MOT's all checked out on it. 46,000 miles from new. No service history, but there is an old advert for the car from 6 years ago which gives 15 services. So, and judging by the look of it, everything's pretty good. But for an older or an original sort of launch year, I suppose, 2004 DB9, I'll turn you around and have a proper look at it. It's in oyster silver, which is quite a rare colour apparently, and it looks a bit sort of mushroomy. I like it a lot. We've got a few blemishes, not this side so much. There's a bit of paint missing around the back, and there's some marks I've noticed in front of the rear wheel a little bit, but she's not in bad fettle really. And it's got a lovely interior. So it's got the, well, I think it's a lovely interior. It's got the what's I going to call it? I call it oxblood. They call it iron ore. And it's got this lovely wood trim that matches that seems to sort of blend in with the dark red of the leather. The only thing that spoils it, which I'm going to have to sort out, is these screw heads have gone rusty for some strange reason. But the interior is pretty good, even the driver's seat. The so-called ski jump or ski ramp, or that bit of wood in the middle anyway, above the dash, that looks like it's gone a bit and could do with a bit of recolouring. Yeah, other than that, she's a good one, I think. Having driven it a little bit now, it's a very impressive car. It goes, as you might expect. And if I can remember how to trip the bonnet, I will let you have a look in. So, memo to self, make sure you know where the bonnet release is before you start doing one of these videos. And on this machine, it's in the passenger footwell. You also need to know where the fuel cap release is on these, which is in a bit of a stupid place. Can do this one-handed. Oh. There we go. And there's the lump. And we've got a few little rusty screws on this trim here, which quite an easy smarten up job. But engine wise, she's good. And it goes and it sounds really well. So whilst you can't get in with your cowboy hat on, surprisingly, and I'm quite short in the leg but long in the body, I can sit. Look, and there's room for the old cowboy hat, so it's passed the cowboy hat test if anybody needs that extra headroom. The only thing I would say is I have noticed that I always like to have a lot of leg room despite my short legs, and you tend to have this seat shoved right back into the rear seats to get it comfy. So that would be my only problem with it. But the best bit of the whole car is starting it. So we're ready for action. So this is the original version of the DB9. So it has a key, which everyone derides as a Ford key. Doesn't really bother me. And the Volvo remote control, locking, etc. So we've got a traditional, there's no sort of keyless start. You've got to turn on the ignition, everything comes to life, and then you press this wonderful glass engine start button. And up fires the mighty V12, and sounds fabulous, as you've probably already heard outside, and it sounds pretty good inside. I might just remove the cowboy hat now, and so we're in a nice place. It's really comfy. The seats, maybe for me, the top of the seat seems a little bit too far back, i.e. I'm getting most of the support in the middle of my back. Maybe that's right, but it'd be nice if it just sort of held your shoulders as well for me, but that's just my personal thing. Observations are everything's close to hand. There's nothing technical about the steering wheel. There's no buttons on it bar the flappy paddles for the gear change. And you've got the mysterious fuel release button, which is hidden right down in the driver's footwell. So anyone buying a DB9 and getting to the petrol station, as I did first time, and then could not find the button for ages. But anyway, it's hidden away in the driver's footwell. So you've got the clocks the wrong way round, in my opinion, and most other people's perhaps. Rev counter goes the counterclockwise to the speedos clockwise, unlike anything else. The speedo sort of starts at 0 at the 5 o'clock position. We're ticking over now at about 750, 800, and the rev counter needle is pointing straight down at 6 o'clock. So they're a little difficult to read, if I'm honest. They look great, but they're a bit difficult to read. One moment while I get my instructions. Yeah.
Can you drop those?
Yep. Cheers. Don't drink and drive. It's the moral of this story. So we'll go. We've got so really we just got to select drive on the buttons up here. You soon get used to this. I think, yeah, again, it's what you're used to, and in every other car you've got a stick to shift, whereas in this you've got buttons to press. So we press drive. We've got a sport button if we want it, and but most of the time you don't need it. There's no automatic setting for the lights, which is a little bit strange on cars of this sort of age. And off we go. We've got a little bit of rattle underneath, which I suspect is a bit of exhaust rattle. I've not had anything done with the car at all, but I fill it with petrol. And I've just only recently really started driving it. Drove it to work last week before Christmas. A couple of 3 days when the roads are dry. The roads are dry again, so off we go. And you're immediately, it's quite a stiff car. I don't think this model has any kind of adaptive suspension. I think that came on later models, perhaps around 2009. So she's quite, you can feel it's very rigid, very stiff. And this is a horrible little single track country road with lots of dips and hollers. So this will find a rough ride of any car. And it's not too bad. It doesn't exactly soak the bumps up, but it's not stupidly rigid. but it feels like you can point and squirt it, and wherever you turn the wheel it'll head. But you do get little creaks and grinds from the leather against something, other bits of leather, or but yeah, it's a nice place to be, and it's, even in this standard drive mode without the sport button pressed, it gives you the impression it's quite eager to please. It's very, very direct. The steering feels very positive. As soon as you start to turn the wheel, you start to change direction. Very, very precise steering, and she's quite lively. As she starts to warm up, we'll give her a go. Aston Martin DB9. I like this one quite a lot. I've really not used it much yet. The buttons are a little bit small, or small, not very clearly printed, in my opinion, to see exactly what does what. If you do jump in and out of different vehicles all the time, as I do, work to pleasure and back again, and different work vehicles, etc., and you're not sitting in the same vehicle for a few days on end, sometimes I find these buttons aren't that easy to see what does what. There's nothing technical, particularly high-tech in this car. It doesn't have the flip-up sat-nav, which I think is probably a blessing. Otherwise I'd have an ugly hole and a pointless screen coming up that everybody said was out of date when the car was new. So I don't have that. What I didn't realise when I didn't really do a huge amount of research on DB9s before I bought this one. Although I did watch quite a lot of reviews on the car, drivability and all the rest of it. And I wanted an Aston Martin, that was sort of like one of the tick boxes. What I didn't know about was the Aston Martin V12 tick until after I'd got it. Now I watched in horror at this video about the tick on a car that had done 26,000 miles. So this one's done 46,165 as we speak. And so I immediately went outside, having watched this video about how to test it, got the car up to normal temperature as it is now, and then you basically sit with your foot on the throttle at 3,000 RPM for about 5 minutes until you can feel the heat coming out of everywhere around the front end. And then you go underneath, round the back of the front wheel, and listen underneath for this ticking noise. Well, thankfully this car doesn't have it. And it appears to be, it's a problem with the top end and the liners, the cylinder liners, which start to move up and down, if I understand it correctly, in the cylinder liner in the block. And that's what gives the ticking noise, this cylinder liner moving up and down, because the cylinder liner has very little contact area with the bottom of the block to hold it in place, and once it's outside the tolerance you get this horrible noise. It's as I understand it, the sleeves go out, and because of this the sleeves go out of round, and so I watched a video the other day of an engine having to be rebuilt because of this, and it had 3 of the 12 were cylinders were out of round, or cylinder liners were out of round, so it doesn't have the tick. So for goodness sake, if you get a chance of buying one of these, just listen out for that, because that's a 15 grand engine job apparently, or somewhere in that sort of order, many thousands of pounds anyway. But this doesn't have it, so I ended up paying 14.5 grand for it from Manor Park Classics, all in, all fees paid. I think it was a bargain. It goes really well. No reason to fault anything at the moment, although I've had a funny sort of, how can I describe it? A gear change when I've been really testing it a bit on hard acceleration, whereby you get a little bit of a grinding sound between the change of one gear to the next. Not all the time, just I've heard it a couple of times. So I'm not sure which gears it's between. I haven't sussed that out. And I haven't sussed out if it's going to be a regular thing or not. So that might be a little bit horrific. I'm going to get it to my garage man and ask him if he's got any ideas. He is an automatic transmission specialist, so we shall see. But yeah, she's driving beautifully this morning, has done when I went to work last week. It's a lovely thing to run about in, and on these better quality roads where it's a comfy ride. We've got this slightly annoying creaky sound at the back of leather squeaking against leather. The rear seat was out when I got it because the battery was flat and same old. We had to put a new battery on it. It is a bit of a carry-on putting the battery in and out on one of these. You take the rear seat squab off on the driver's side, and there's an aluminium frame that holds the battery in position, and it's got some very sharp edges, and you've got to be really careful because you can mark the leather in the back, which has already been marked on this car rather annoyingly. But other than that, yeah, it's a nice place to be. Can't wait to go and give it a really good run out. I'm not sure where that's going to be, but we'll take it somewhere for a decent journey and see how we get on with it. It's only got a small boot, so it might only be a weekend away as opposed to a week away, but we'll see. We have got the back seats we can chuck a load of stuff on, so we'll see how we go.